Dan, different location today as usual. The RVI, you're here, you're talking it through with a lot of kids. Why are you here?
Just to support the kids. Obviously there's a lot of work done with the foundation and the Sir Bobby Robson Foundation to help the kids here and stuff, and it was just to come and try and put a bit of a smile on the kids' faces and stuff, which I would say the majority were happy to see.
We won't go into the minority, don't worry. You know, you're a dad yourself, so what are the emotions like to see the kids like that in a ward like this? Obviously really well looked after, and we'll go on to that in a second, but how are you feeling looking at that as a dad?
Yeah, it's emotional. I think I did a few of these visits before I had kids, and you don't really understand it properly till you've got kids and you sort of imagine it, but I just sort of can't imagine what the parents are going through. And just as I've said to a lot of them, you just never expect it to be yourself and stuff. So yeah, it's sad. I'm just glad that the treatment and the people that are looking after them, everyone seems amazing. So
we talk about the treatments and the people who look after them, and obviously Newcastle United Foundation had a lot to do with it, but the Sir Bobby Robson Foundation has a lot to do with that. What does it say about the legacy that the great man has left, the care that these kids are having as a result of the Sir Bobby Robson Foundation treatment?
Yeah, huge. Obviously Bobby was a legend. He was probably the first manager that I really remember. And it shows you just all the good work that's going into all the treatments and helping people. I'm just glad that sort of that legacy from his life sort of carried on.
There are obviously some hard times working on children's cancer wards, but there is also the difference it can make is very, very rewarding.
Talk us through the work that the foundation continues to do.
So we do activities on wards, talking to the children and keeping them physically and mentally active whilst they're going through treatment.
And when you've got someone like Dan coming in to see them, obviously Dan's got kids himself, but how does that kind of resonate with the children, would you say?
It just gives them a massive boost, and it's not just the children, it's a whole family, so there's babies down there, but the parents are getting a massive lift from Dan coming in and just having a chat with them as well.
I think it was June 26th, 7th, around there is when I came in, and I was having pains in my side and that, and there was loads of bruises, and I found out I had leukemia. I didn't find that out straight away. It took me about a few weeks for them to tell us, but yeah, it's scary, but up to where I am now, I'm feeling alright, really.
Children's cancer is fortunately rare. In the north, we get somewhere between 100 to 120 new cases per annum, and that's always a serious, very dangerous illness, but we expect 85% of them to be cured.
So when it kind of comes down to it, what sort of difficulties do the children and do their families go through on a daily basis?
We have a very wide range of the types of cancer that we see and treat, and our treatments are tailored exactly to what they have. So there's a very wide range of what the experience is. But the experience is always very difficult. We get a lot of our success by using aggressive, difficult treatments and a combination of difficult medicines, difficult chemotherapy, aggressive surgery, radiotherapy, all squeezed together. We push things together a lot because that's what works best. And we do things at a high pace, and it makes it difficult in terms of symptoms, and there's always the emotional overlay, the fear, the isolation, the inconvenience is too light a word, but the real difficulty of uprooting your life and making this everything that's happening to you.
Obviously, let's talk about the football. Crystal Palace, the only place to start. It's probably one of the least boring 0-0s I've ever seen, certainly. I'd talk about the game, but I think there's only really one place to start, and that's a certain decision. How were you as players feeling when you walked off the pitch, or when you saw the replays of that back, would you say?
Frustrated. Obviously, I think there's a lot of talk about VAR at the minute, whether it's good for the game, bad for the game, whatever. But yeah, I would say frustrated. Obviously, the officials have been able to look at it numerous times and come up with that decision. I think it's hard, but you've got to come to terms with that decision. I think we'll probably get a few our way this season. The chances are they normally even themselves up over the season. And like as a whole, I do think VAR is good for football. I said it's just however many years in, I think it's just going to take time for us to perfect the system a little bit.
And in the last couple of days, the PGMOL have come out and accepted that it was the wrong decision that was taken at St James's Park at the weekend. Does that make it any better for you players, or is it still a tough one to swallow as a result?
Yeah, obviously it is a tough one to swallow. It's points dropped, isn't it? Got 3 points. But as I said, it's nice for them to come out and sort of admit that they made a wrong decision and own up to it, because I said that's all we want as players. There's
been a few decisions, like you rightly point out, that have gone against Newcastle recently, and the fans have highlighted quite a few. How much do you players feel at the minute that you're not necessarily getting the rub of the green, albeit these things tend to iron themselves out over the course of the season?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's anything against one particular team. I think that's just the way it works sometimes. I think if you play a lot of decisions over and over again, we could have a split room, just the room that's in now, about what happens. So you've just got to trust that the referees and the experts are making the right decision. And as I said, they've rightly said that they've gotten a few wrong, but I would say the majority of the time they do get them right.
Don't worry, this whole interview is not going to be about VAR, PGMOLs. We are going to talk about other things as well. But Eddie was talking in his press conference last week about this kind of us against them mentality that is being fostered at Newcastle at the minute. How much does that sort of mentality motivate you guys as players, would you say?
Yeah, I agree with it as well. I do feel as if it's sort of us against the world sometimes, with everything that's happened, takeover, those sort of things. So yeah, but I think it's just sort of added motivation for us. Obviously we got booed off at Liverpool, but you don't, like the gaffer said, you don't want to be clapped off sympathetically. So yeah, I think it's good. I think we've shown this season that we're getting closer to the teams above us. We maybe haven't picked up the points that we wanted, but I think as a whole and with performances, I think if we can consistently perform at that level, that we'll pick up a lot more points.
He seemed typically calm afterwards, as Eddie always seems to be quite calm. What was he like behind the scenes?
Yeah, the same. I think obviously he could understand the disappointment with the lads. We thought it was a big chance for it to pick up points. We were really unlucky with the Liverpool game. I thought we deserved more out of that. But yeah, I think the gaffer's always quite level-headed. He never gets too high and never gets too low, and it's just been back to work this week building towards West Ham.
So it's 7 points from the opening 6 games. How would you personally rate that start, would you say?
I would like more points. I think if we look from what's happened from previous years and stuff, I think we would like more points. But I think the performance that we've had, the teams that we've played, we're in a sort of very positive mindset at the moment. As I said, I think if you're performing well, they'll convert into points over the season. I'd much rather be doing what we do now than struggling. So.
And there's not many goals being conceded, certainly by the defence. It seems like there's so much competition for places in that defence. Is it the strongest defensive unit and most competitive defensive unit that you would say you've been a part of in your career so far?
Yeah, I would think so. I think when I was at Brighton, I thought we had a really strong defence there. But I think that's what the big change was. I spoke about in January when I came in. It was sort of competition for places. I think for a long time, lads knew they were playing week in, week out. And we've made good additions to the squad. Obviously, Sven coming in, Matty signing permanently. So yeah, it's good. You want to push each other every day. Everyone wants to play. There's only a certain amount of players can play, but I think it's good to have that competition, that you're not just sitting back knowing that you're going to play every week.
I was going to say, how much have you noticed, even so early on in the season, that this extra competition has made you a better player? Yeah,
it's got to. I think you go either one or two ways. You sort of shrink away from it, knowing that there's people coming in your position, or you rise up to it and stuff. And I've said it before, on a personal level, I'll back myself against anyone. Anyone who I play against or who comes in for that position and stuff. So yeah, as I said, it's a healthy competition.
Just generally, we talked way back in January when you joined about the pride of your signing day, where you pulled on the shirt. Your dad and your mum were there as well, watching you. What are we now? 8 months on or so? Has that kind of novelty or that pride lessened any, or has it just grown more every single time you step out and you pull on that shirt? For you and for your dad as well, I suppose.
Yeah, I think it's grown, if anything. Obviously, I think at the start, just everything was brand new and stuff. I think especially at home, like every time we come to a home game and you see the crowd there, we'll have all my family at the games and stuff. I think it's just a real buzz about the place. And as I said, I particularly like playing at home just in front of the crowd.
And like I said, it is 8 months on. Obviously, the kids are a little bit older now as well. Does that add to the pride factor, the fact that the kids are now starting to recognise that you are out there living your dream almost as a Newcastle player?
Yeah, the problem is I don't think they're quite that old. They could take it or leave it, to be honest. But it's quite nice, I think, when you go to a game and then you come home and regardless what happens, whether you win, you lose, you've played well, you've played bad, that it doesn't really matter with your kids. They're just happy to see you and stuff. So I think over time they will start to enjoy it and stuff. They do come to all the games, but I think they prefer probably just sit on their iPad or play with each other. So fine by me.
They'll get there eventually.
They'll get there
eventually. Talking about the fans,
yeah.
We were talking about this a little bit off camera, I suppose, that they are seemingly more fanatical than ever this season. We've seen stories come out about Joe Linton, about Maxi going and buying kids toys and things like that. It's incredible to see the connection now between the players, you players, and the fans themselves. What experiences have you kind of had with the fans out and about in the community, would you say? Yeah,
it is crazy. I'll be honest. Like compared to the teams I've been at before, it is very intense. But everyone's been amazing. Like, I get stopped in the street a lot for pictures, for autographs. Obviously with the summer holidays being on as well, all the kids have been outside the training ground. So it's amazing. Like, it's nice to see and have that feel around the city, that sort of everyone sort of pulling in the same direction. So it's been amazing. And a big part of that, of course, is the St James's Park atmosphere at the minute, with war flags doing what they're doing in the stands. How far do you reckon we're off seeing Dan Burns' face adorned on a flag in St James's Park, would you say? I'd love to see it, but that's not for me to choose. But I think it is amazing, the displays. You look forward to doing it every week. And I know a lot of it's done from donations and stuff as well, so they do amazing work, and I do think we've got the best atmosphere in the league, especially obviously at St James. I think the away fans travel well, but at St James's, I don't think there'll be many teams that look forward to playing against us. And I suppose adding to the atmosphere on Saturday in particular was, of course, Sam Fender there as well. I saw you having a bit of a chat with him at half-time as you kind of came out to warm up at half-time. Was that just asking for, 10 tickets next June? Or? As many as I could get, really. I think it's amazing that the rise he's had sort of starting to coincide with the rise the club has, and I think it's a really good, feel good throughout the place at the minute. He's doing the gig at St James's next June, so we've got our tickets sorted already, so I'm sorted of that. But yeah, it was just nice to speak to him. He's going back on tour again. I think my brother's going to watch him in Canada actually, because my brother's out there now. So really good. Cracking. One of the lucky few who got them. Anyway, let's talk seriously. Let's get back to the football because there's so much expectation, so much delight over what Newcastle United are doing on and off the pitch at the moment. How much would you say it's about patience right now? Not just about getting the players like Bruno and Maxi back into the team from injury, not just about what's being done in the transfer window, but about what you guys are producing out on the pitch to get to where everyone wants this club to be. Yeah, I do. I think it's a fine balance. I think we can't jump the gun and get too far ahead of ourselves, because the teams at the very top of the league, the City and Liverpool, they're at a certain level and they've been there for a long time. It will take a while to catch up with that. I'm just more happy that the 2 games that we've played against them this year, we've managed to shorten the distance so much, maybe just in the performances that we've done. But you've got to aspire to you want to be the best team in the league, the best team in the world, don't you? So I think it's a fine balance about not getting too far ahead of ourselves, but knowing that we've got targets and we want to progress. I won't press you on the targets necessarily, but what should the ambitions be, do you think, this season? Tough. I think it's tough to say. I think from the position the club's been in the last few years, to finish in the top half comfortably would be an achievement for. I think I've heard people talking about Europe and stuff, and I think that would be amazing. But obviously we've got to have a very, very good season to do that. So. And naturally, come Sunday, you face one of those sides that are in Europe, in West Ham United. What sort of game is in store for Newcastle down at the London Stadium? Yeah, they've got a lot of quality, and I think they've added to it this season. They've probably not had the best start, or the start they would have wanted, but with the management they've got in there, and they've managed to keep a core group of players for a long time, I think they will kick on again. So it'll be a tough game. They've got a lot of quality, especially in the forward positions. So we'll probably be under the cosh for a lot of it, but as I said, it's the intensity's our identity at the minute, so we'll be going there to get after them and put in a good performance. And even so early on in the season, I suppose it is a game between 2 sides that have the ambitions of finishing at least top half, possibly even pushing for the European spots.
a win could take Newcastle United up towards the top 7. Does that put into context, even so early on this season, how close that race is going to be?
Yeah, and I think it will be a tight race right the way through. As I said, West Ham's a team that we could probably, as a measuring stick, that we want to be a team similar to that, what they're aiming for and stuff. So I think it's too hard to say that it's sort of defining moment in my season, these sort of games, but you want to pick up as many points as possible, as quickly as possible, so yeah, it'll be a tough game.